Hello. Hang on just a second. Okay. All right, here we go. Hi, everybody. It's been like a week, and I feel it, guys. I feel it. Before I give the whole spiel, I do want to say hello to people currently in chat. We've got the full 180 dropping by before work. I may still be on. These streams tend to run longer than I expect them to. And congratulations to Zeb. Thank you for redeeming first. Zebkins, Zebby dearest. I have not seen you in such a long time. You have been busy dying, and also I am definitely going to fall asleep right here. I genuinely hope so. Even though we haven't spoken in a while, I am very excited to have you fall asleep to my voice. Let me move this reading list. It definitely seems like it's gonna cover chat, so we'll just put it over here. Okay, for those of you who may not know me, if you're jumping in on the stream or watching a VOD later, my name is Luminous Peak. I am your friendly neighborhood fae on sabbatical, learning about all the things that you humans do. And tonight we are doing some good old-fashioned bedtime stories. It's been quite a while since I've done this. Life to be lifing out here with this air quality. Man, everyone's air quality is so bad right now. So bad. I was checking the reports today, and even I managed to get reports about air quality in my area being bad, and we usually don't have that bad a problem with it. There's no fires or anything going on. It's just apparently air quality is just shitty everywhere right now. But yes, let us do some quick housekeeping. I like to do my housekeeping just in case someone new stumbles across my streams and don't know what the heck is going on. Normally I stream some games, but also mechanical keyboard builds and content. I do study streams, I do these bedtime reading streams, even though it's been a little while for me so far. Let me move myself to the side real quick. Just a little bit. So I can move the reading list text. And then tonight, on nights like tonight, I like to do bedtime story readings where I read interesting projects, books, zines, not comics, unfortunately, but other written texts, anthologies, things like that. Usually these are private projects that are either limited runs or that I have supported on my own that are no longer available. And if they are available, I definitely verify if the readings are publicly available before we get to that point. I think that's about it, honestly. Let's see. Hi, Karisu, how are you? This is my at night I'm getting ready to retire voice, which I know Karisu likes. Oh my god, the trio is back together again. When was the last time the three of us were, present for each other's streams? Crazy. I'm so glad to have you both here. Finishing up my housekeeping. Feel free to hit exclamation point hello for greeting. There is also a point redeem for lurkers down there. If you don't want to actually have to type to announce your presence, you can just do a couple clicks. There's also I am reading from the Wanderer's Library today. However, this website and the lore, some of the lore of the Wanderer's Library is actually the basis for my streams. We are in my private Wanderer's Library room right now. And the long story short is that we're gonna read some cool stories today. Feel free to hit !library or !explore for a little, like choose your own adventure game. You can explore the library in text, in chat actually, and check out what sort of things are hidden for you to get into. There's some cool potions. You can also hit !snacks, I think, to actually get a menu of snacks. There's a few cute things on the list. So if you are looking for suggestions, or if you just enjoy the idea of having a snack in chat, feel free to hit that and do some exploring. Let's see. I think that's just about it for today. So how is everyone doing? I see that Zeb is going to try to stay awake as long as possible. Hopefully you'll be able to. I've been talking for a while, so let me know if my volume is okay, if I need to be a little louder. I've done some slight adjusting because I watched my previous VOD and actually thought my voice was a little loud. It shouldn't be too much quieter though. Only like a smidge, a tidge, a little tiny eensy weensy bit. Never too loud. Deafen me. You really would like straight up just go deaf though. That's crazy. maybe not that. Maybe not that. Now, for anyone who is unfamiliar with the Wanderer's Library, we're gonna hit the !today command, which should have a list of what we're doing. Ignoring all that text in case you don't need it, since I've already announced what we're doing. The important thing is that the Wanderer's Library is actually an archive of open source tales. Basically, it's open for the public to contribute and read and share. So we're basically just gonna select some stories from random, like at random, and highlight a few of those. I've got my reading selections list ready because I made the mistake last time of not writing down all of the stories that we did. I think I put them in the chat, but not on screen. So the Wanderer's Library is actually a real archive. They have quite an active community, and they are actually a lot of their writers and the site itself update on Twitter. So you can actually search them on Twitter. And the last time they were very happy to have had me read anything. So I just read that one clown one again, ECGG. Just to fill everyone in, there was a short story that was basically a setup for a really terrible joke about murderous clowns. I think they were cannibal clowns, if I recall correctly. Which is to say, the Wanderer's Library has all kinds of stories there. I encourage you very strongly to check it out if you're the type of person that just wants something to read. There's no real rhyme or reason to the Wanderer's Library. It is just lore-wise. They were in fact cannibal clowns. The Wanderer's Library is canonically a interplanar and dimensional library that supposedly has all books that have been written, are currently published, and will be written. All of the books ever. It is connected to most planes, most planets and locations, and sometimes people use the Wanderer's Library to travel, which is fine so long as you're not causing a ruckus, so far as I know. They have a lore page on their wiki. They have actual characters, denizens of the library. I did read those the last time. That I went over the Wanderer's Library. So I won't read those sections again now, even though they are super exciting, but I will direct everyone over to my YouTube. I'm gonna hit exclamation point YouTube. And my VODs are in fact there. You can definitely tell the Wanderer's Library one. There's a big green box, green and gold are their colors. So if you want information from the past reading, you want to catch up on old stories that we've read, because we won't be reading any of the same ones we read last time, feel free. Alrighty, now that I've gone on a bit, the TLDR is if you want to read cool stories, please go to wandererslibrary.wiki.com. You can also just Google search the Wanderer's Library. It's a wonderful place. I am actually just going to hit the generate random, right, button, and we're actually just gonna get started from there, to be completely honest. Let me go ahead and get started. I have more energy this time than I did last time. So I am very, very, very excited to just sort of dive in. Let's see. A random book that takes me to a random page, actually. Let me... Oh my gosh. The menu is so long. I would like actually a stack of books if I can get my hands on it. Yes, here we go. Random stories. All right. I don't know if this music is ideal for reading. Let's see. Maybe we'll go without the music for now. What do you guys think? Are you guys fine with the music, or would you prefer a little white noise? Because I think we went with a white noise last time. If you don't have any preference, I suppose I'll just keep this up. Let me see if I can. Is this the correct? Okay. I think I've got my browser. All right, here we go. Covering my face is a shot of the library. I just wanted to show this really quickly so you can see what the random page looks like. So you get a random image that's on display in the library, and then you get this stack of books here. So this stack of books right here has a bunch of story names on them, and we basically can pick from whatever we want. I'll go through these really quickly just to see if anything sounds interesting. As a reminder, this is a open project, so basically the wiki just has a bunch of stories on it. People are able to submit whatever it is that they want. The stories do not have to be interrelated. If you have stories that are just like disconnected, you can submit like separate stories. You can submit chaptered stories. The goal is that every story is a book in the library, so they don't have to all be connected. Now we've got a couple that I find very interesting just off of the bat. We've got some library themed stories. We have Library Rat here. And we have a misplaced letter, which I wonder if this is going to be interesting. We do not have to do these in order. Usually I just sort of go with whatever I want, or I'll let chat, like volunteer. So if any of these look interesting to you, feel free to tell me, but otherwise we're gonna go for, oh, there's one called Witch Season. I'm interested. I think we'll do Witch Season, Library Rat, and a Misplaced Letter. I'm also very curious about We Are Forgotten, which is probably going to be very sad. Hey, how's it going, Lumi? Thanks for dropping by, Bez. Hello. We're just getting started. You actually have not missed anything. I am pretty much just showing off the list that's on screen of the current books that are up. And yeah, that's basically it for now. Let's see if I can... Shoo. Is it this? No, that's not what I wanted. Okay. All right, I got it. So for now, I think we're going to start with Witch Season. I'm very interested in what Witch Season is about. So let me take a moment to update my reading list with the details for Witch Season. I'm trying to keep track of them this time because a lot of people really wanted to know the authors, the names and authors of all the stories, and I was able to supply them when they were asked. However, I want to actually be on top of it this time. So let's see. This is, let me put this in, Witch Season by Loiterer 87. So we're gonna add that in. We've got Loiterer, let's see. Loiterer 87. Hopefully I spelled that correctly, because that's... I have relocated to the bed because desks are whack and I don't want to sit in my chair right now. That's fair. I'm ready to definitely not fall asleep right here, right now. Okay. I believe in you. Okay. So without further ado, we're gonna read Witch Season. You know what? I don't know. I'm really not like feeling this music. I love my theme. I think it's wonderful, but I feel like it's a little too peppy. Hang on. We're gonna cut that. And what we're gonna do is put on something a little slower, maybe. I think we got like some lo-fi that we can play. So let's do that. Fingers crossed that this isn't like super peppy lo-fi. Okay. I think this'll work. Okay. Here we go. This is a bop though. Yeah, the immediate pep. I was really hoping. But I still feel like this is a little better. Oh my god, the volume is so loud. Let me turn that down. I didn't realize how loud it was. Okay. My desktop audio was set mad high because I was playing a season last stream and forgot to adjust it. I was just about to say like it might be a little loud. No. That was way too loud. Okay, how is this volume? We settling in? The immediate pep though, I was really hoping for something a little less peppy. Yeah, this is great, very vibe music. This is great vibe music, but it is not great music for okay. We'll see. We'll get it. We'll hit it a little bit. We'll see how it goes. Alrighty. So here we go. Reading Witch Season by Loiterer 87. All right. Let me adjust this window really quickly. Okay. May 18th, the year of our Lord, 1788. I think the seasons come in early this year. The sun rose this morning and looked a bit green. Also, Sybil Flanders had a black cat following her around the schoolyard. I hope it's not as bad as last year. I don't think I want to try learning my letters from a talking scarecrow again. He got straw everywhere, and the crow turd stains are still on my board. May 21st, the year of our Lord, 1788. Well, it's definitely here now. Every woman in the village has a black cat now. Where did they all come from? One day there's not a cat in sight. The next, they're everywhere. Mom had a cauldron in the kitchen. I don't know where she got it from. After last year, Dad scraped it up and made some new hooks and brackets and things. They're still there. And Maggie Shepherd has a broomstick now. Soon, we won't be able to move for witches. June 1st, year of our Lord, 1788. I'm surprised. Honestly, I am. It's been about 12 days since the season started proper, and we've only today just had our first proper casualty. Yes, there have been some little things, like Jonah Maguire being cursed with some sort of singing foot rot for saying his wife couldn't cook to save her life. Earlier today, William Foreman was turned into a goat. No idea why. Lame, where's my government mandated black cat? It's true. Okay. June 2nd, the year of our Lord, 1788. It turns out William the Goat was laying with the school mistress. His missus found out after he was muttering her name in his sleep. Talking of sleep, I found it easier to actually get some this year. The past few years, I've been kept awake by the sounds of women in the night. The wind rustling through broomstick straw, the cats calling and cackling, the constant cackling. That's why he's the goat. I mean, literally, that's why he's the goat, though. June 16th, the year of our Lord, 1788. Elsie Meadows tried to do some good yesterday. She started small, having her cat clear the whole village of rats and mice. Although, I heard a girl did the same thing last year, and as soon as the season ended, they came back. So did she. Elsie then turned the rats into worms, which the chickens found. She said she was going to make everything better. June 25th, the year of our Lord, 1788. Elsie's plan was a bit daft. At first, I don't think anyone complained about the improved crop growth so far. Then they kept growing and growing. And eventually some corn about 30 feet tall collapsed under its own weight and crashed on John Baylor's cow shed, which spooked his cows. June 30th, year of our Lord, 1788. Elsie's friend, Mary, tried to solve the cow thing after about 5 days of giant vegetables and scared everything else's. She thought it would be good to have the cows feel safer and more relaxed. Why she thought floating ghost hands would work, I'll never know. Probably the way season makes them think. July 5th, year of our Lord, 1788. We've got some new entertainment going about the village. Those ghostly hands of Mary's? Well, they're not going after the cows. Everything on 4 legs is getting unwanted attention. The sheep, my neighbor's pet dog, somehow even the cats, and the entertainment. Well, it seems the hands are trying to milk William the Goat, too. When you roll it now on a mage hand, yes. Oh, this song is perfect. Amazing. Sometimes I wonder if I should just have Persona 5 soundtrack music as my background music forever. But that's not very constructive. Okay. July 7th, year of our Lord, 1788. And now things are no longer amusing. The hands are going after everyone. Being goosed by a pair of cold, clammy hands is funny once. I'm pretty sure everyone in the village has been molested by Mary's hands. Okay, but Persona music slaps though. It does though. It do. July 12th, the year of our Lord, 1788. The hands are gone. Mary's mom did it. Only thing I think she's done, although I can't be sure. Red smoke was rising from her chimney, and I once saw one of the windows try to escape. No, hang on, that was our house. Mom tried making the windows clean themselves, and I don't think they liked it. July 19th. So after about, I don't know, a week, we managed to get all the windows back. Dad threw out the cauldron after they escaped. It somehow came back too? Some good news came too. John Baylor rebuilt his barn from a giant loaf of bread. No idea where it came from, but hopefully it should be fine when it goes hard. I really love like how this is just gossip from the local town that's going through witch season. July 20th. The front door ran away yesterday. August 1st. John Baylor's barn collapsed. The sad part is everyone saw it coming. Stale bread and a chicken pen attached to one of the load-bearing walls. I heard a rumor the cows were also eating it. August 9th, I think. I think the oddness has just about peaked. There are people-sized talking hedgehogs demanding equal rights. The hands have all been tied up in Mary's back garden and are fighting so much. It's a never-ending sea of thumb wars and rude gestures. No one's sure whether it's night or day thanks to the crops now overshadowing the entire village. And Tom Proctor's tongue is now longer than him. I still can't understand him. Damn, not the door. Yes, I agree. August 14th. The season's ending! Mom woke up this morning and couldn't understand why she thought bringing the windows to life to clean themselves was a good idea. So she started undoing all her spells. And she's not wearing the hat anymore. August 22. The hedgehogs are all gone. The crops are back to normal size. And I heard the last few hands of Mary's are vanishing into thin air. We've begun the final preparations, too. All the hats and cloaks and broomsticks are being collected for the final night. August 24th. Purging night is upon us. All the women are back to normal and the cats have left, gone to who knows where. All that's left is the celebration. The great bonfire is ready. All the hats, the brooms, and cloaks have been built in with the remains of John's first barn. In fact, it even looks like a giant pointed hat. The tables for the feast is being laid and the harvest has been plentiful again. The season is over and like everyone else, I pray it never happens again. William hasn't been seen for a while though. I wonder if he ever got turned back. There's also a note left at the bottom of this piece. I will read it in its entirety. He out with the hands, bruh. I don't think William's coming back. Okay. The National Association of Mages and Magical Beings. From the High Chancellor. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of indeterminable gender, it is with great pleasure to announce that once again, our midsummer sabbatical has been a resounding success. I would like to thank Robert Olwyn and Grolthrax, Master of Shapes, for their helpful pamphlet on maintaining transformations for a long period of time. And again, I can only apologize for any mistreatment you may have received from your host during this time. I would also like to thank Alice Courtier for helping to make our transfer safer, not one single combustion this year. I am proud to say that since implementing this scheme, we have not had one incident of megalomania or rampant malign intentions. May you achieve great deeds for the next year, and may they help our nation rise proudly. High Chancellor Jim Green. So So the idea, I suppose, is that this is actually like some magical communities, some magical community scheme to like keep people at bay. This was very cute. I actually really like this story. I'm very worried that we're gonna start off on this very strong high note, and then the other stories will be depressing. I also like this. It was very cute, very spooky. I will keep this in mind for spooky season. This is definitely a good spooky season piece. Okay. Now I'm gonna go over to the second one I was taking a look at was Library Rat. Let me add that to the list. I want to stay on top of it because I feel like if I don't, I will forget. Stay on top of me, guys. Make sure that I'm looking at the list and updating it. All right, here we go. Library Rat. And that is by mxssacre. All right, there we go. I have no clue. I would like to reiterate, I have no clue what these stories are going to be. I know that for some people, they prefer to have, warnings concerning what it is they're reading. But that is not the nature of this site. I haven't read any of these that we're reading today before. So if you think you might be sensitive to something, feel free to skip out on stream if you need to. But otherwise, we are going to attempt to have fun. Okay. Let's see if I can. This one has like a link to some information about animals in the library, apparently. Okay, so to prep you for Library Rats, I'm going to read through the description of the masked canines, which seem to be exactly what they sound like. It says here, just to read through the notes very quickly, it says only one individual masked canine lives in the library right now, but it's actually part of a much larger species. And they usually use the library as a waypoint during their travels from wherever they reside. They are quite large, and they have a very long neck that puts them at eye level with most humanoid patrons. Let me actually bring this up on screen so you guys can see it really quick. All right. So these are the masked canines. So it would be in the upper left. So they look kind of scary. Or at least I guess most people would find them scary. I actually think they're pretty gnarly. But I think your average person would say they're a little scary. Puppy, yes, I feel like they're puppies. They're giant masked puppies. I'm about them. So running through this really quickly. Put the puppy in my lap right now. All right, so how to identify them. This is a general description. A large creature with a canid-like body, but the proportions are weird. They have gangly limbs, a skinny body, incredibly long neck and tail. The front paws resemble hands with opposable thumbs, and most notably, it has a mask as a face. It resembles a human's face, but is completely void of eyes, and looking into them just shows you a dark abyss. We have no clue how this creature sees, eats, or speaks, and speaking wise, it can speak and it converses with patrons regularly. So there are some various shapes and sizes of these, but a lot of the information is unknown. Behavior is important though. The notes here say, unsure what this thing's deal is, it's just an asshole to everyone it encounters, so I guess it's a blessing that we don't see it very often. It does, however, carry a sketchbook around, or take said sketchbook from patrons only to disappear with it. I don't know where it's taking the book, but the library staff don't seem to care, so maybe the sketchbook belongs to it? And then it says, warning, this creature is actually as intelligent as an average patron and is horribly mean, like a total asshole that will verbally degrade you. I'm wondering if it isn't actually an animal and more of a sentient thing. Perhaps it needs to be recategorized. So it's a giant giraffe dog asshole, apparently. Alrighty. So now that we've gone hot, no, Zeb, no, Zeb, no. Okay, so now that we've got that primer out of the way and you are familiar with what a masked canine is, we are going to read Library Rat by mxssacre. Here we go. Oh. Listen, I want the dog to yell at me for being stupid. Oh my god. Zeb, I'm going to ignore you. How dare they make Nier music about... It is a bop though. Okay. Here we go. Here, this is Library Rat by mxssacre. Pat, pat, pat. What is that sound? The pitter-patter of tiny paws on a hardwood floor, weaving in and out of the shelves of the library around you. Ugh, please tell me it's not. Hi, what are you reading? Can I see? Are there pretty pictures? Your thoughts are interrupted by the small, long, and relatively chubby creature as it rounds the corner at an unnerving speed and bumps into your legs. Its stupid little face stares up at you with no thoughts apparent behind its soulless eyes. You sigh. The little fuzzball in front of you, impatiently winding around your legs like a dog on crack, is technically your problem, though admittedly you do wish on the occasion that it wasn't. Its name is Wumbo, and it's the young masked canine your good pal Locken convinced you to adopt. Its actual gender is entirely a mystery to you with its strangely high voice and odd little body. Though it does seem to like it when you call it by male pronouns. Doing this certainly does clear up any confusion, so you do, much to his pleasure. And also, he now screams if you don't. Oh my god, Wumbo, yeah. Never have you seen a creature so ridiculous. Like, his face is literally just a mask with a goofy smiley face. Are those crayon marks? Where the hell did he get crayons? Wumbo, becoming too impatient for an answer, grabs your leg with all four of its weird little paws. Each of them have rat-like fingers wrapping around the folds in your pants. It's kind of creepy, honestly. Look, Wumbo whined, lifting up a tattered, poorly kept book barely held together by... glitter glue? Look what I made! Let's read my book! You flinch as his tiny hands heft up the monstrosity of a book, narrowly missing your face. Wow, this thing is covered in glitter. It's crunchy. You don't even want to touch it, never mind the hopeless attempt at reading it that would be sure to follow. You don't think Wumbo even knows his ABCs, never mind his spelling. Whap! There it is. This time Wumbo hit you in the face with the crusty abomination. If you don't read it, he will scream. God, does this thing scream. It's why he's so fat. All he does is scream. Look! Wumbo pulled the book back again, close to a hissy fit. All right, fine. I'll read your book. If you hit me with that thing again, I'm gonna be pissed, and then I won't ever read it for you. You cave in as you put your hand between the book and your face. A wise decision, as with Wumbo's excitement came his long, hard-hitting tail as he turned and jumped off of you to sit on the floor. Yes, sit here, read, I want to show you my pretty pictures. Wumbo hopped around in his hind legs, on his hind legs as he carried his creation over to one of the shelves to lean against. Setting down the book, Wumbo sits down next to it. Well, as close to a sit as you can get with an overly excited toddler, basically. As you walk over, he's practically jumping with excitement. You start to sit down next to him, positioning your back towards the shelf to get comfortable. But as you do so, Wumbo snatches up the book and bounces into your lap like the ball of rat he is before you even hit the floor. I'm getting Vietnam flashbacks with all the glitter. I used to work at a craft store. Oh no! Falling awkwardly against the shelf with the oddly heavy Wumbo in your lap, you do your best to relax as Wumbo scoots himself further onto your legs with his book, clearly struggling to open it through the copious amounts of glitter and glue. You wince as an upsetting amount of glitter crumbles and lands on your lap, knowing you will be finding the horrible little sparkles everywhere for months. You sigh, but Wumbo has finally peeled open the book, clearly having glued many of the pages together. Okay, this is my book. Look how pretty my cover is, sparkly. Wumbo stared at the glitter-encrusted page of the book for a moment before looking to the first page. He points at his scribbles and looks up at you, somehow excited by them. Look, by Wumbo, that's me! I love Wumbo. I don't know, he's oddly charming, to be honest. Like, he's pretty charming in like the way that children who cry are. Like, it's great because I can give them back, right? Okay. It certainly does not say that. Realizing Wumbo is still staring intently at you, you nod your head and mumble some sort of wow or other sound of feigned amazement. This is going to be a very, very long trip to the library. He gives a small wiggle of excitement and looks back down to struggle with the next page. Oh, look! This is one of me and my best friend. He's kind of fat. Wumbo lifts his book up and points at a sad little doodle of what you can only assume is Wumbo and his friend. He's drawn a rather round circle for its body, but you can't exactly tell what it's supposed to be. I don't know what his name is. I just call him Trash Eater because he eats trash. Oh, and look at that one. I drew a snake. He pointed to a random line on the page. I mean, if you squint your eyes and tilt your head... He moves on to the next page before you can say anything about his trash-eating friend. As he turns the page, you realize he's glued a ripped piece of paper onto it. It appears to be an art page with the words "Warning" and "Undead" written on it. You try to decipher it further, but Wumbo has clearly scribbled all over the page, obstructing most of the ghoulish figures and words. Where'd you get this one, Wumbo? You reach around him to point at the suspiciously glued page. Is it from a newspaper? What? Wumbo's head tilted and leaned into the page, uncomfortably close. Oh, that's from a pretty book I found. It had lots of pretty art, and I wanted some of it in my book too. You blink at the ridiculous little creature in stunned silence. A book. From here? He ripped a page out of a book in the fucking library? You take a moment to compose your thoughts. And you weren't caught harming one of the books? The staff didn't even try to punish you for it? You ask him slowly. Wumbo just stares blankly back, not a single thought in his tiny mind. The what? Not even half a second later, he's already turned back to his book to point at all the nonsensical scribbles. You just stare at this ridiculously stupid creature, trying to understand how he survives this long. Permanent ban for library? Yes. Ooh, look at this one. Wumbo's entire body rocks backwards, holding the book above his head once more. The book is still angled downward, so only Wumbo can see this amazing thing. He flips over, finally revealing several pictures glued onto the page. A nice man took pictures for me. Look at how pretty I am, that's me! He fawned over the images, clearly obsessed with them. Somehow, you have a feeling that Wumbo's basically rediscovering everything in the book at the same time as you. Looking at your watch, you realize you're going to be late for your meeting if Wumbo doesn't stop gushing over himself soon. Wumbo carefully peels 2 of the images and hands them to you. For you, so you don't forget to come and see me. You feel a twinge of guilt as he says this, and you start to pocket the 2 glitter-encrusted pictures. I even draw this on the back. Wait, look it! Okay. You pull them back from your pocket, and you turn them in your hands. On the other side, there's what used to be more scribbles, though now they were ruined by the glue that Wumbo used. You decide not to tell him this. Very nice, bud. Aren't they pretty? He tilts his small head thoughtfully to the side before going back to flipping through his book. You can't help but feel a sense of fondness for the little guy. He may annoy the life out of you, but... Ooh, you hear Wumbo softly mumble, and look down to see he stopped at a page with a small shard of a mirror glued on. This one's my favorite. Gently lifting Wumbo off of your lap, you set him aside, gently patting the top of his head. He doesn't even seem to notice, as he's too wrapped up in his own reflection. You step away and give him a slight wave to check and see if he even realizes your departure. He doesn't. You feel bad. As you walk down the dark library, you take the 2 pictures out of your pocket and stare at them for a moment. Just for you. He made them for you. And you're walking away from him again. For a brief second, you almost think of turning around, picking him up, and taking him home. It's a bad idea, you know. But you still can't help the passing thoughts of the total and utter chaos Wumbo would cause back home. It's safer for him here. Yeah. You put the pictures back into your pocket and keep walking. You're already going to be late. Bye, Dad. The tiny voice echoes through the shelves behind you, and your heart breaks. No! I feel the need to inform everyone here that the 2 photos that Wumbo provided have been included as part of the story. So let me reveal Wumbo's photos. Take Wumbo. Oh my god. This was actually very cute. I hope that you're enjoying the images. Look at all the glitter on the corners. Oh my G-man. Justice for Wumbo. Well, there you go. There's Wumbo and Wumbo's photos. He's just a little guy. Adorable. He's just a little guy. The idea that someone convinced you to like adopt him and he's like, bye, Dad. Oh, that's so... It's actually very cute, as annoying as he is. I really like this story. It manages to somehow capture the annoyance and also endearing qualities of children all at the same time with actual accuracy, and I love that. It was me. I told him to adopt Wumbo. It was probably me. Oh my gosh. Apparently it's your good pal Lockin. So are you Lockin? Is that one of your multiverse identities? Oh no, not this song. This song is I feel like Wumbo would enjoy this music. Okay, that was very cute. It's about to be so I can take Wumbo. I'm glad that you're enjoying the stories. We've gotten two really kind of upbeat ones. I'm a little surprised. It's very interesting. This is not the song that I think, this is not, I think it is. They would never. I think they did. This is, in fact, the instrumental of Silhouette from Naruto Shippuden. That is, in fact, what it is. This is a Naruto Shippuden instrumental. I hate why. I hate it. Why does it slap? Sometimes the things we don't expect to slap actually do slap. Okay. Now, some other stories we have on this list of books that we have not yet gotten to. There is a Misplaced Letter. There is We Are Forgotten, which I think sounds interesting. And I might read Spiraling Shape. Sounds very interesting as well. Bez, oh shoot, you're right. I can't believe I didn't recognize it. It's okay. We all fall short sometimes. We all make mistakes. Okay. Is it bad that I kind of want to pick titles that are not as, that sound like they may be uplifting? This playlist is wild. I can share it with you if you would like. Just let me know. Watch while this is playing, we get like some crazy... Okay, hang on. I'll throw it into the chat. Give me just 1 second. I'm glad that you're enjoying the playlist, though. Also, yeah, nah, peppy stories, please. I want more Wumbo. Kurisu, I'm fading fast tonight. Actually going to bed before 3 for the first time in a while. Y'all take care now, you hear? Thank you for stopping by and listening to me read a few stories. I hope that you sleep well and have lovely dreams, and I will see you around in the library later, yeah? Zeb, that is the playlist for you. I hope you enjoy it to your heart's content. Yes, good night, Kurisu. Okay. I'm gonna stick to my original order. We're gonna go for a Misplaced Letter, and then we'll sort out some of the other titles. Okay. Oh my. Oh, I want to add this to my list before I forget about it. So A Misplaced Letter is by Rounderhouse. Thank you for the lurk. Let me update the reading list. All right, so we have a Misplaced Letter. Oh, and that is by Rounderhouse. Alrighty. We're gonna dive right in. Oh, I definitely took it as literally like misplaced letters in words, but this is a misplaced letter as in it was just randomly found in the library. I see, I see. Oh, I like this song. Who doesn't like the Wii channel shop theme, the shop channel theme? Who doesn't like that? It's just a banger. But okay. A misplaced letter begins with the note that the following letter was found tucked into the inside cover of a copy of A Brief History of Military Conflict and Karaz. It says, Kamar Jan. Let me preface this with a simple admission of guilt. I'm sorry. Not for my actions taken, but for failing to foresee how they would come to affect you, affect the Darjan society as a whole. You will no doubt be under significant scrutiny once the extent of the incident in Marser comes to light. I hope you find this letter before that occurs, and if not, that you manage to keep it hidden from the praetors no doubt shadowing you. As I write this, it becomes increasingly apparent to me the scale of your influence on me. You took me under your wing when I exited the Imperial Institute, and you vouched for me when I was considered to lead the expedition into Marser. I find myself now wondering where my life would be if I hadn't taken the job. Marser is a hostile land. It is somehow drier and more arid than the rest of the Empire, and its population consists of illiterate Pa'ask farmers. Settlements are few and far between, and those that are more than a campfire and tents do not trust outsiders. The people are deeply conservative and religious, and have no significant hallmarks of culture. By all accounts, Marser is utterly worthless as a prospective client state of the Empire. Except for the Darfur. The Empire spends fortunes upon fortunes seeking out magically inclined children and shipping them off to the temple to turn them into living weapons. Even in the best years, no more than 50 students have graduated the temple in the same class. And Marser, the Darfur, their word for warlock equivalent, grow like fruit from trees if they had any, ripe for the plucking. What takes a temple warlock intense months to master, the infants can do with no more effort than sucking their mother's breast. They are, by far, the most valuable resource at Karas. I was informed to take the necessary actions to ensure that the palace would have control over them. No doubt the palace or the Grand Marshal will denounce and condemn the events, but they know as well as I who ordered them. I'm afraid the Darzan's society and you will have to sever any connection with your former golden boy. For what it's worth, living in the fort with you all were the best months of my life. Marser's largest city, if you could even call it that, was in flames for days after the massacre of Darfur's parents. We watched from an overlooking dune as the people ragefully mourned the loss of an entire generation. We set out for the rendezvous in the night, hoping to avoid another bloody confrontation with the townspeople. We were told the caravan would take the children off our hands and deliver them to the capital. We didn't expect to be cut down in the darkness by our own allies. I remember my lieutenant screaming, being silenced by an arrow through his skull before his corpse fell on me. I laid in a pool of blood, some my own, mostly others, for hours, dead silent. The body on top of me had shielded me from view in the desert night. I waited until long after I heard the last Pa'ask hooves fade away to crawl out from underneath the cadaver of my friend and drag myself through the graveyard. This is not Pog music for this story. Let me wrap this up. I can only imagine they did it to tie up what they considered a loose end. That's all any of us are to them, really. Pawns to be shuffled and sacrificed as the need arises. Definitely fitting music for this story. Oh no. I escaped, obviously, and I wasn't the only one. The praetors, I assume the praetors were the ones who ambushed us, got sloppy in their overconfidence. A fair few men escaped, and no doubt the news of what the field marshal not only authorized but encouraged us to do will soon break. I'm safely tucked away in a drinking hole on the far borders of the Empire. I found an unlikely ally in Fairskin. He names himself Yves, and he claims to have access to a library of knowledge to assist me on my newfound goal. If you can make the journey, I implore you to follow. Follow the map on the reverse of this letter. The Darzan Society has considerable influence, and your assistance in this will be priceless. I'm tired of being a pawn for bigger players, Kamar. Surely you must be too. Surely you must be too. And then it's signed, yours, Astul Mach Malil. Which is, man, this is actually great, like. I'm definitely gonna, like, cut this music. This is a lot. This was actually a really nice, really well phrased letter. I like how it's written. Hearing like the words Empire always makes me think of Star Wars. But Star Wars is ultimately a collection of war stories at the end of the day. And this definitely reads like a war letter. Hang on. What I'm actually not going to do is continue to play this music while I'm reading. I've got like some white noise I can turn on, perhaps. Maybe we'll do that. I think the white noise would be a little better. Okay. So if you've got the white noise on, let me know if it is too loud. That should be a reasonable volume for you to sort of hear it in the background without it actually obscuring anything. Listening to Lakey inspired while I'm reading about a man crawling from under the corpse of his friend who died in an ambush has got to be on the list of most ridiculous things I have done. I have done this year. Oh gosh. Alrighty. So we've gone through 3 stories so far, which is pretty good, I'd say, for an hour, you know, like intermittent conversation and everything aside. I actually really liked that story. I thought it was very interesting. It obviously is supposed to be the sort of story that makes you crave more, right? Like, you want to know what everything is. You want to know what they've, like, what the history of this is and where they came from. You want to know more about just the world that this person comes from and what it means. Which is super, man, I may bookmark this author to see if they've written a little more about this universe or what happens, or if any of these characters recur. Yeah, that one was interesting. Yeah, so part of what I love about the Wandering Library is not just that there are books on the shelves. There are stories in the letters. There are stories in the diary entries. There are stories in Post-it notes. There are stories everywhere. And since the library is supposed to contain every story ever written, if your letter contains a story, then it would be in the library, right? I think that's super interesting. Okay. So, moving forward. I'm sorry for those of you who are enjoying the music. I can't. I was so close to bursting out into complete and utter laughter. I may have actually, I'll have to watch the VOD back. I may have actually straight up laughed reading about this man pulling himself out from a ditch in a war zone while Lakey Inspired is playing. It's crazy. Okay. So, other interesting stories on this list. We have an undead hymn. We have spiraling shape. We have We Are Forgotten, which I think I may save for last. And then we also have Cornelius the Goat Slayer. That sounds ridiculous. But I kind of like that it sounds ridiculous. From any of those, does anyone have any preferences? Do any of those sound particularly interesting? Or do you just want me to pick one at random and go? No? Oh, Let the Slayer of Goats sounds Let's see then. We'll take a look at Cornelius the Goat Slayer, which is by Uncle Nicolini. Oh goodness. I know that the usernames are just usernames, but they are also authors and I find them very hilarious. Alright, let's get this on the list. I've been doing such a good job keeping up with the list, so we're hopefully going to keep that tradition. Let's see, we've got Cornelius the Goat Slayer and Uncle Nicolini. Here we go. Alrighty. Let's go. Oh, this is a poem. Very interesting, very interesting. Okay. Let's go. Let's dive into Cornelius the Goat Slayer. I remember it, the day the goats came for us, a corn massacre. Their arrival was signaled by their terrible bleating. At first, all seemed well. Maybe they were here in peace. Foolish to think so, for soon they devoured us without mercy, without doubt. Screams filled the night sky as those monsters ate my kin. I can still hear them, pleading, begging the monsters, but their cries fell on deaf ears. Woe be upon me! But I did not stay down long, for duty called me. On that day I swore the oath. Yes, the oath of the Slayer. That day I became the slayer of foul goat beasts, spawn of Baphomet. On that day my heart blackened. That day I was sworn to hunt. Until SCP. They imprisoned me for not halting my crusade, told me my hate was wrong, so that I can get over it. I, Cornelius, slayer of beasts, stop hating that which ate my kin? They searched for a cure to hate and found it in therapy. And time heals all wounds. Maybe goats aren't so bad. Maybe goats are cute. Maybe I was wrong to hate. Maybe I can forgive them. Okay. The last line of this poem links to SCP-3837. I'm just gonna read this article because like this was a short poem, so we're just gonna do it. It links to the SCP article. It just makes sense to read the SCP article. For anyone who is unfamiliar, the SCP Foundation is an open source project, a shared project wiki similar to the Wanderer's Library, but instead of being focused on books and stories, it is focused on the idea of an organization called the SCP, whose goal is to secure, contain, and protect Earth and various other places from anomalies that are dangerous. So the site is set up similar to the Wanderer's Library, except rather than books, all of the pages that are written are about anomalous items, people, things, settings, places, etc. That basically are cataloged by the SCP. That's pretty much what it is. There's the website is scpwiki.wiki. It's great. There's literally years of material there for you to read. There's a long rabbit hole of anomalous items, people, creatures, etc. It's great. It's honestly great. What separates these two things is that everything on the site is written like a document cataloging the item or person or place, as opposed to the Wanderer's Library where everything is actually written in story format. Zeb is like, what is SCP connections? Oh my god. Therapy does wonders. He forgave the goats. This is crazy. Okay. So, I want to start by just giving you the number of the item. So again, this poem linked to SCP-3837. This is a level 2 restricted item. And there are a couple things to notice about it. It is containment class Euclid, which means that it is difficult to contain, but still containable, I think. It is disruption class Dark and risk class Notice. And let's just dive into it. I will say, for those of you who are unfamiliar, SCP articles always have a specific format. It gives you the containment procedures for the item, person, creature, whatever, first, and then you get a description, and then you get relevant information if there are additional documents. Alrighty, so here we go. Special containment procedures. SCP-3837 is to be kept in a standard humanoid containment chamber at Site-322. No food containing corn is to be brought within SCP-3837's view. All inquiries from SCP-3837 regarding whether one has consumed corn are to be either denied or ignored. SCP-3837's file is currently under the jurisdiction of Site 322's integration program. See addenda for details. Description: SCP-3837 is an ear of corn, Zaya maize, partially covered with husk. It has thin makeshift arms and legs composed of 0.6 millimeter thick stalks, and it stands at 0.2 millimeters tall. Oh, I'm sorry, at 0.2 meters tall. Its arms terminate in 4 digits, one of which is an opposable thumb. It has a tuft of corn silk stigmatis coming from its top and covering the top left section of its front. SCP-3837 is sapient, sentient, and capable of sensory perception and vocalizations despite lacking the necessary organs to do so. SCP-3837 self-identifies as Cornelius the Great, Slayer of Goats. Along with this, SCP-3837 incorporates a medieval and Shakespearean speaking pattern into its diction. It says whether or not this is a conscious choice is unknown, but that is crossed out, so I assume they figured it out at some point. SCP-3837 is incredibly hostile towards goats, Capra agagris hircus, and will become irate at any and all mentions of the animal. This attitude will deteriorate when SCP-3837 is presented with any materials depicting or resembling goats. When this occurs, SCP-3837 will instead display symptoms similar to those with post-traumatic stress disorder, including panic attacks, anxiety, and emotional stress. SCP-3837 was discovered on May 12, 2020 at a farm in Danville, Kentucky, lurking around the perimeter of a fence wielding a spoon. The owner of the property contacted authorities, and MTF Iota 10, damn feds, was able to apprehend SCP-3837 with no incident. Standard veil retention protocol was performed during the recovery. Zeb, wait, the Slayer of Goats is corn? Yes. Yes. He and his brethren are corn, and they were massacred by the goats. And I suppose he swore to be their enemy forever, is what this sounds like. So, we're just... I am tempted to read this log, but instead, I will link it here in the chat so that if you want to read through the addenda, you absolutely can. It showcases interviews of the research staff with Cornelius the Goat Slayer. That makes sense, but also I wasn't expecting that at all. I actually am going to show you a photo. There is a photo of Cornelius here. Let me just boop that up for you because it's just actually hilarious. Here we go. This is Cornelius, the Goat Slayer. He's got the... He has corn silk as hair. It's so cute. I hope that you're all enjoying this. Yes. Zeb, don't tell me you've never heard of the great, the venerated Cornelius, Slayer of Goats. This is actually amazing. I appreciate that someone saw this SCP and their thought was, someone needs to chronicle this being's tale of woe. I would also not be surprised if the poem inspired the SCP. It could be either or. I would not be surprised to hear either one, actually. These are sister archives that have overlapping contributors in some cases, so I would not be surprised at all. But there you go. That was Cornelius the Goat Slayer. I hope you all enjoyed that. Let me move the reading list just a tad. The little teensy bit. There you go. And, you know, maybe I'll scooch myself over just a little bit too. Just a little bit. There we go. I have so many emotions and I don't know what to do with any of them. I think you'll be okay. It'll be fine. I believe in you. Alrighty. So we have left here, in no particular order, an undead hymn, spaceman spiraling shape, we are forgotten, and I suppose there's also the wolf who wanted to be a boy. I am tempted to do spiraling shape next. I think that's what I'm going to go for next. So let me go ahead and add this one to the list so that I don't at all forget. This is also a short one. We're having an interesting time with short stories this time around, I think. All right, here we go, reading list. We're going to go spiraling shape. Oh, whoops. I didn't mean to add that there. Let me go down towards the bottom. There we go. Okay, here we go. I want to make sure they're in the correct order because it just makes things easier later in case anyone asks when or how I read anything. Question though, can you guys hear the white noise at all? I'm unsure. Let me turn it up just a little bit, maybe. A little tiny bit. All right, so this story that we're looking at now is Spiraling Shape by RJB_R. So let's take a look and dive in, shall we? Oh, I am also unsure, but that's because I have a loud ass humidifier. Okay. I think it may be up loud enough. I'll bump it up just a tiny bit more. Okay. Welcome, my child. I don't know how, but you found yourself in the Hollowblade Hall, the great estate of the House Hollowblade. We're not often used to seeing many visitors these days, don't you know? Don't you? Mayhap you never heard our sad tale, one that has echoed through these halls for generations. If you have the time, and I know you do, we must sit down so that you may hear. The dynasty of the Hollow Sword Blade family was a long and prosperous reign, fueling the great Starlight Wars between Elrich and Suvia. Our lands prospered, and the royal family became extraordinarily rich. There were some who had critique, even then, of this practice, and when the hecklers outside the gates would shout loudly enough for the royal family to hear it inside, well, so to speak, it was bothersome for them. All things must, as fiendish fighting did, come to an end. There was a great devastation across the land. The marsupial mystics had devastated much of the countryside, not to mention the intervention of the cosmos themselves. Most living on this plane blamed the Hollow Swords, whom had profited so serenely from the suffering. Not long after war's end, the pitiable death of our king came to be, a great tragedy. Inspecting a rampart of his estate, His Majesty tripped over loose masonry and tumbled into a nearby shark fisherman's spear. In this grievous time, his only heir, the darling crown prince Rudolph, was smothered like a bump under a rug. It was thought he was lost until an odious odor emerged from the royal tapestries. The Queen Mother emerged from this a very nervous, and some might say bewitched woman, convinced her ill fortune came from a curse cast by the spirits of those slain by hollow sword slashes. She shut herself away to stave off the machinations of the apparitions of those upon whom she had profited for so many years. Her court wizard, the servant sorcerer Cerberus, was ordered to expand the many halls of her great house, adding false rooms, stairs, doors, and endless corridors on corridors to confuse any vengeful spirits coming to bring her discomfort. I did as she told me, and the halls grew, and a fractal catacomb crawled out endlessly before us. It started growing larger by the day, and inside the hallowed halls it grew 10 times what the outside reflected. This impossible space twists endlessly through space and time, yawning at infinity as it progresses ever inward upon itself. Identical brick and bedrooms splayed endlessly into each other, until you don't know where it began or how it could possibly end. I have not seen the Queen Mother in many decades, as she has disappeared like me into this ashen landscape. It is my one wish that she may find peace. As for yourself, as you stalk through these gloomy arches and long tunnels to nowhere, ascending and descending to meaningless altitude, remember the folly of hiding from your demons by delving ever deeper into the self. You can't hide from your mind, though you wish to try. Now go on, child, and remember that we have spoken. If you become lost in starvation and madness down here, know this: you are not lost to all. I am the archive of what has been lost here, and I will never forget. Oh, geez. That's, that's kind of crazy. Not especially depressing, but also still kind of depressing somehow. Not indirectly depressing? Indirectly? Oh, no, hiccups. Yikes. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. But it's nice that I like how this was written, though. The descriptions are really good. They're concise, but very full of imagery. Again, I find myself with emotions. Man, imagine being the kid who's stranded in this place. And, like, as a result, basically, all you can do is wander around until you die. All because some old family just did a bunch of fucked up shit. And now this, like, cocoon of a castle was just left here. That's crazy. And then the wizard, the sorcerer, he's just like, yeah, well, I mean, if you get lost here and you die, like, I'll remember that we talked. Like, that doesn't actually help me. I mean, I'm glad you're doing your job, but obviously you could live a lot longer than me. Yeah, that's nuts. And I like how he very specifically says, if you become lost in starvation, right? Like, he knows there ain't no food down here. So you're just gonna die. Depressing. All right, well, on that note, I suppose we're gonna go for an undead hymn. I've been looking at it for some time. I pushed it back a couple stories. Let's go. So, an undead hymn, that is a story by Prof Hassan, and it is actually quite short as well. We're getting through quite a few stories today. I'm not sure how long I'm going to stream. I don't plan on being up all night, but I did want to get through a few different things. So let's see. All right, let's open up our reading list. We're at this point, it's an undead hymn, and it's by Prof Hassan. All right, there we go. We are all set. All right, so here we go. There is a note at the top of this story too. It says, you find a scrap of parchment with what appears to be part of a rudimentary script for a mid-budget play. The topic is unclear at first, although it is titled An Undead Hymn, a skit for a half hour in a skeleton crew. Oh, this might be good. I'll repeat that one more time. This is a script for a mid-budget play. The title is An Undead Hymn, a skit for a half hour in a skeleton crew. I'm especially amused by this because I actually saw a play recently that was specifically about the idea of going to see a play where everything goes wrong. So I am very interested. Okay. The forest is cold and damp. A soft yet clear voice is heard, casually chatting with a scratchy and sour voice. The scene is dark but illuminated with a mild fire and surrounding wear lights. The playwright suggests the careful manipulation of shadows through floating lights or a central fire. Tell me a story. Ugh. Most of the good stories I know are in a sort of poetic form, and my throat isn't what it once was. I thought that was apparent. But you keep bringing up how the tales from the other side are the only cultured thing left. And they're not even for the living. And you never tell us any of them. Harjik, fine. But don't blame me if I stop because a vocal cord snaps. Let's try this one. William proceeds to recite a memorized poem by the fire. This section can be sung like a hymn or spoken with the rhythm as poetry with meter. The playwright suggests careful selection of the actor, modification of lyrics, or use of voice recordings if needed. The mood is dramatic, perhaps unnecessarily so. In silent plea for winter's end, a dogged shadow drops again, at rest, at peace, until the night of the darkest moon, or living life. And then there's a footnote here that says, living life is sometimes translated as human life. During times as such, they say the most about fervent wraiths or severed ghosts, and while the warnings they bear make sense to hear, the real dead threat is of a different flesh tier. There's a footnote by the word dead that says, this is translated from Undead, that's what it looks like, which is used as both a sharp way to mention death and as a thrilling insult. Okay, I see. Where yellowed flesh falls from bone, and where rage and sorrow seep through stone, would there lie a motive still fresh than would bring black rotten stiff flesh? Imbued with the power of a mind long gone, imbued by the afterlife, a return gone wrong. I love a thrilling insult, as do we all. Stories poke fun at returning from hell, the other side, the door of death, the underworlds. But what they miss is a ring of a bell, clear, piercing, a sound of warning. So thus do they lose its sense of weight to shocking, to draining, to already boring. And there's a footnote here by Bell, and it says, this line has the meaning of a deeply intrinsic feeling. Bells at the culture of writing symbolized internal and usually moral convictions, and a ringing of it suggests a gut feeling that something is not quite right. I like that we're getting cultural notes here, because obviously not everyone views everything the same way. That's cool. All right, so here we go. But man will soon not forget, nor leave it food for thought, as the dark times come and skeletal hands reach for familiar God. The audience can tell that Ellie has remained still this entire time, whether because of the frost or because of the chilling themes of the poem. Wow. So what does it mean? Do you know when the dark times will come? No. And I hope it will never be found out so long as I live. William can be heard attempting to raggedly catch his breath from his performance. His lungs don't work like they had when he was alive. Okay, well, do you think we'll be safe then? From all the other scary monster things? If we find the others, we should be fine. Speaking of which, follow. It's time that we begin searching. And we've been near the comfort of the fire for too long. Are you well rested? Yes, I'm ready to go. Lead the way, Will. Ah, Will. What an ironic nickname. Because, yeah, I get it. Exit. This play is ridiculous. This play is ridiculous. But this author has not written anything else. I kind of want to see more ridiculousness of this type. 10 out of 10 best play ever. Clearly, this is the best play ever. And you can operate it with a skeleton crew. That's nuts. You could probably get away with doing this with like 4 people at best. It would, in fact, take a half hour. I read through the lines slightly dramatically, but it's a little too early in the morning to go at it with full vigor. I mean, I could just, you know, come out the gate in silent plea for winter's end. But, you know, I'm not a theater kid, so I am just a humble reader doing my best. Either way, that was actually hilarious. I very much enjoyed that. I'm very glad that I clicked on it. And oh wow, we are about halfway through this stack of stories. I'll do it. Oh man, I kind of want to just link it to you so you can keep it in mind for later. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Let me put this in chat. I want to see you perform this on stream. I believe in you. You can do it. Okay. Now, of the stories that we have left, bet we have Spaceman, We Are Forgotten, and The Wolf Who Wanted to Be a Boy. I think those are the only ones really in this stack still. And I mean, honestly, we've gone over most of the ones in the stack, or we will by the time we finish these three. How long have we been streaming? It's been an hour and a half. Okay. Maybe we'll make it through this stack and we'll call it a night. I do want to try to do these streams a little more often. This one was particularly late because there was such a ruckus in my house. I absolutely could not stream at like my usual time, which is around 6, 7 EST, maybe a little earlier, give or take. But I would like to do this more often. I feel like I do these streams too far and in between. I love them so much. Okay, here we go. We are gonna go with Spaceman. We're gonna look at Spaceman. Now, Spaceman is by Avalon 21, which is an interesting name, to be sure. We've got some definite themes of Arthurian legend going. Let me add this to the list. I'm doing my best to keep up with things. So we got Spaceman. And let's put the author's name in here. Here we go. Alrighty, without further ado, this is Spaceman. Oh, it's a poem. It is, in fact, also a poem. Okay. There is a forenote here that says, keep thinking. Here we go. Spaceman. Radio static crackles into his ear, to the space-walking man bearing no fear. A feeling like playing poker without packing an ace, or having no helmet in the stars of deep space. Don't put the brush there and leave the blood dry, else we'll have to get fresh stuff like new blood and new dye. That rune is messed up, painted anew, else you want to be split up in two. The space-walking man heaves a great sigh, for it is no small work to paint runes in the sky. More like blood rites is this art, since there is no chance of living on, sadly, this miserable dance. One strike incorrect and no air left to breathe. These things and more the spaceman now grieves. The spacesuit moves again to see mistakes and amend, a task which seems to have not an end. A red Celtic ring made of the genius of a man on the earth who makes just the plan. For it is another on Mars who carries through the right and paints all throughout the all-gaping night. A few minutes later, and some several days, a cold wind blows and some red dust fades. The ill-suited man has now finished his scene, a scene of old books and rotten dead dreams. The time has come now for a chant to begin, the final choir, quite, if the man wants to win. He starts off slow, drawing much breath, taking his time till he sees the mark met. With the planets aligned and the stars smiling above, the Mars man whispers words of sorrow and love. And soon on true earth does the spell take effect, a true last spell, but not one so correct. A rune for cows, but not one for leaves, has been carelessly transcribed in the darkness he sees. And so ends the man, the first one on Mars, but he had unknowingly altered the stars, or the fate, if you will, of a young, rough-worn boy, and set him to play into life's daring ploy. Which is, this is actually very interesting. This author has done a couple other things, but I'm not sure if any are related. So there's I Work in the Sky, but that may not be related at all. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, dang, yeah. This one was very interesting and started, it's giving Doctor Who vibes somehow. It's giving Doctor Who vibes. And also just, man, you're one rune off and then fuck, you know? Like that's yikes. Big yikes. Alrighty. I'm just amazed that we've gotten through so many short stories. A couple of the ones that we read the last time were quite long. And not that I dislike long stories, but I'm excited that we've gotten to go through so many. What rune or magical process would you use to make the perfect toast? Oh man, I feel like the perfect toast would be so precise. Well, I mean, everyone likes their toast different, but like, I like mine that's like a little burnt, but like not like completely burnt. So I don't know. That seems like a lot of precision, a lot of timing. Okay, so we did Spaceman. There is The Wolf Who Wanted to Be a Boy. And there is also a story that is just titled Egg. It's gotta be a little burnt, yes. You want that like little light crunchiness that gives way to like the softness, right? Just a slight bit of crunch on the outside so you get that good sound, that right? And then the rest of it should be easy to chew, right? You don't want to feel like you're chewing like concrete, you know? Okay. I am curious about Egg. So I'm gonna read Egg. Oh, apparently Egg is in fact a poem as well. We've got a lot of poems this time. This is by Stygian Blue. I wonder if we read something by them last time, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. Let me go ahead and add their information here. So we have Egg. That's it. That's the whole tweet. Egg. The name does seem familiar. I'm looking through the rest of the stories. I'm so sure. I'm so sure that we read something by them. Let's see. There's a story called... No, none of these look familiar. Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of someone with a similar name. But one of these stories looks really cool. Ode to the Professor Who Wore a Dinosaur Costume to Work. Hilarious. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Maybe their naming conventions are just very similar to some of the other stuff that we read last time. But okay, here we go. Oh, what was I gonna say? Oh no, okay, we got it on the list. I'm like that too, just lightly toasted. Yeah. All right, here we go. Here we go with Egg. The sun, hot and sweet, dripping runny yellow into the creases of my fingers, yolk boiling up into our faces, mouths, stinging skin, burning hair, eyes squeezed shut. We laugh anyway. The kitchen smells like thyme and the rosemary you brought in from outside. Sunbeams across the floor, egg yolk on the ceiling. How did it get up there? Stars outside the window, sky pink and blue and white. Just outside the door, eggs in the pan, frying, sizzling, blue flame beneath sputtering, and you are warm against my shoulder, your hair in my mouth, sweaty from dancing in the rain, skin singing in the warm, sunny side up that's become us. Well, dang, that was like an actual real poem. Well, there you go, Egg. Damn, egg was deep. Yeah, egg was deep. I feel like this reads like a poem that I would see at like or hear at my local slam. And I mean that like in the best way. Like it's definitely people sort of like viscerally connecting ideas to like their life in a way that certain people can relate to, but not everyone can relate to. It's very interesting. Very interesting. I'm very fond of egg. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. Wow. We've gone through most of the books in this stack. That is kind of crazy. I am actually shocked. We have done almost everything except maybe like 4 stories. Let's see. We have, of the ones left that I'm potentially interested in reading, we have The Exhibition and The Wolf Who Wanted to Be a Boy. The other 2 stories seem to be parts of like larger stories. So I'm not sure if I want to go into them. I'm gonna oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I hit the wrong button. I hit the wrong button. Oh gosh. Yeah, so like the list like refreshed by accident. That's kind of okay. I might be able to search them. I literally just talked about what they were. So we have The Exhibition. I found that one. And then the other one was The Wolf Who Wanted to Turn Into, or Who Wanted to Be a Boy. Yes, okay. I have found both. I have redeemed myself. So I will just go through both of them. First, we're going to go through, maybe we'll do The Wolf Who Wanted to Be a Boy. I have a feeling that The Exhibition is usually exhibitions have to do with art, higher stakes, people liking your works and whatnot. So we're gonna save that one for last. So let me add The Wolf Who Wanted to Be a Boy here. And this is by Bryx is what it's looking like. So let's add them to the list. The Wolf Who Wanted to Be a Boy and Bryx. There we go. All right, without further ado, this is The Wolf Who Wanted to Be a Boy. Once there was a boy who liked to play in the forest. He wasn't old enough to hunt, so he made traps for rabbits out of wood. His traps were very clever, and he always brought home at least one rabbit every night. His parents were very proud of him. One day, the boy found a wolf cub stuck in one of his rabbit traps. It was too small to make a worthwhile pelt, so the boy set it free. The wolf cub thanked him and asked why he was playing with dangerous wood out in the middle of the forest. The boy told the cub that he was setting traps for rabbits to bring home to his parents. The cub asked why the boy didn't hunt like the other people he saw, and the boy said that he was too small and his traps caught rabbits every day anyway, so he didn't need to hunt. The cub asked the boy more questions about his home, his family, and his traps, and the boy shared some of his catch with the cub as he told him. Finally, at sunset, the boy told the wolf cub that he had to go back to his family and left the wolf cub where he had found it. The next day, a little boy appeared at the edge of the village. He looked just like the boy who laid traps in the woods, but he wore a mask over his face that looked like a wolf. He asked for directions to the boy who laid traps and knocked on their door. The boy's parents took him in and invited him to share dinner. The boy's big sister asked him where he came from, and he said, "The woods." The boy's mother asked him where his parents were, and he said they were dead. The boy's father asked if the wolf-masked boy would like to stay with them, and he said yes. The boy who laid traps asked him why he was wearing a mask, and the wolf-masked boy said that he was not wearing a mask. The wolf-masked boy followed the boy who laid traps around for many days, doing what he did. Only the boy seemed to notice that the other boy wore a mask, because nobody else ever asked about it. One night, the boy asked the other boy why nobody else could see his mask, and the other boy replied that he was not wearing a mask. 3 months after the wolf-masked boy arrived in the village, he stopped following the boy who laid traps. When the boy asked where the other boy had gone, people said he had gone hunting with his father. The boy was very angry, but when they came home with twice as much game as the boy's father had ever gotten alone, the boy who laid traps had to hold his tongue. One day, the boy who laid traps did not catch any rabbits, even though his traps were sprung. When the wolf-masked boy came home with his father, he had 10 rabbits with him, and they all had 1 arrow wound through the eyes and what looked like a bite mark in their legs. The boy who laid traps tried to protest, but his mother slapped him and told him not to talk to his brother that way. The boy who laid traps was very angry, but he couldn't do anything because he was afraid of being slapped again. 10 days later, the boy who laid traps still hadn't caught any rabbits, and his family was very angry with him. That night at dinner, his big sister gave his seat to the wolf-masked boy and told him he could eat the leftovers she dropped on the floor. The wolf-masked boy looked over at the boy who laid traps, and the boy thought he saw the mask's teeth stretch into a grin. The boy screamed and ran at the wolf-masked boy, pushing him out of the village. They rolled on the ground, punching and kicking, perfectly matched. Eventually, the boy grabbed the other boy's mask and pulled hard until it came off. The boy dropped the mask in surprise when he saw that the wolf-masked boy was actually the wolf cub that he had rescued from his trap many weeks ago. The wolf cub dropped to all fours and leapt at the boy. But before he could reach him, he faded into the evening mist, his spell broken. Well, there you are. Ooh, I know why Stygian Blue sounds familiar. It's the name of a song by Monuments. Ah, yeah, okay. That explains it. I knew I had heard it somewhere. Also, damn, yeah, that it's giving very folklore for sure. I suppose the wolf must have made a deal with like some witch of the forest or something. So that was cool. I actually really like that. I would also be mad though if like some dude just showed up and started copying everything that I did and didn't give any credit. That's kind of crazy. Okay. And the exhibition, I can already tell that this is SCP adjacent because I see mention of Marshall, Carter, and Dark here. So Marshall, Carter, and Dark are a fictional organization. They're related to the SCP universe. And the long story short is that they buy and sell, or find and sell, or steal and sell anomalous items. They are basically of the opinion that anomalous things, people, creatures, etc. should go to the highest bidder. They are the somewhat capitalists of the SCP universe, although I will say that there are certain threats that they are kind of like, this one's a little out of our league. Let's just turn this over to the big boys. So that'll be interesting seeing them in a story. Alrighty. So we're going for the exhibition. So I imagine that this is going to be SCP adjacent or related. And this story is by Skipmeister, as you can see here on the list, which I am diligently updating. Yes, head pats for Lumi. Oh nah, he's not even getting let in. We're fighting behind the ditties. 180, I'm back, baby. How's it going? It's going pretty well. We've read through quite a few stories, as you can see here. We've gotten quite a few short ones. So this list is actually quite a bit longer, I think, than the previous list. I'm probably going to be ending soon, but I may do an extra story or two since they're going by fairly quickly. So, wow, we had a lot of poems. My favorite is Egg. Egg is my favorite. There was also Spaceman, which was very sad. Apparently someone fucked up the universe by not drawing the stars right. Pretty sad. And we just finished The Wolf Who Wanted to Be a Boy, which was about some ornery ass wolf that like made a deal with like a witch or something to like be able to just become a human and try to steal some dude's family from him. Ridiculous. Actually trifling behavior. Crazy. For me, ooh. Nice. Glad it's going well. I hope that works okay. But okay, let's get into it. We're going to get into the exhibition. I had never been so disappointed before. Tonight was supposed to be my big night. The Anart exhibition that would define my career. Hosted by the richest men of the anomalous world, Marshall, Carter, and Dark, luminaries from all across the multiverse had come to see our work. I remember how surprised and excited I was to see the letter that I had even been accepted into the exhibition. To receive one of these had been my dream since I was a child, learning all about the wonders of the anomalous on my father's knee. The letter looked so formal, with the logo of MC and D printed on the bottom, that I thought it sealed my future forever. Standard Wednesday stuff, yes. I do want to add a little context here to what an artist is. So an artist is an anomalous artist. These are part of the SCP universe. There is a community of people who enjoy making anomalous art, although they believe in sort of making art for art's sake, regardless of the effect that the anomalous art has on people. So they're kind of a controversial group. I believe the formal name of the organization, the center organization that makes anomalous art in the SCP universe, is called Are We Cool Yet? And there are some short stories on the SCP wiki, as well as here, obviously, that deal with them and some of the stuff that they make, the kinds of items they make and why, which usually why is like, man, good luck figuring out the why. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that since they're a pre-established thing. A nice name. Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, here we go. I spent 5 hours fretting beforehand. Eventually, I settled on a suit to wear. A black and white chessboard pattern, only with actual chess pieces that moved and played games over the fabric. I had specifically requested that it be made with some of the most famous games of history sewn into it. But when I looked down at myself, I could not tell which game was which. Before I could second guess my choice of clothing, I looked at the time and realized I was running slightly late and left in a hurry. Rushed to the portal that the letter told me to go to, in between a bookshop and a bowling alley. When I arrived, my astonishment at seeing the place was a feeling I would never forget. It was ridiculously surreal, like if M.C. Escher painted an art museum, and the museum was filled with Escher's paintings, and the paintings themselves being alive. The chandeliers were made from glowing crystals, almost looking more like disco balls than chandeliers. The crowd there was as impressive as the art, with all sorts of people from all sorts of dimensions, dressed in the finest suits, capes, and cloaks that money could buy. As I approached the host, a tall, imposing figure with gray robes, a metal mask, and a mane of white hair, I felt very intimidated. Yes, I've been awaiting your arrival, Natura, he was saying to a woman before him, a human with a green dress that I quickly noticed was actually made out of leaves, and dark green hair to match, flowing down past her shoulders with flowers in her hair and clothes. Your work is waiting for you in the West Wing. The woman, who I had assumed was Natura, eagerly nodded and looked over to her right. She started walking so quickly she almost bumped into me. Whoa, she said suddenly, stopping herself. Sorry about that. No, it's all right, I said awkwardly. Just gonna talk to the host, find where they put my work. I'll casually flex that. Why not? I thought to myself. Oh, are you an artist as well? She asked. Yeah, I grinned. Artiflex. I held out my hand. Natura, she shook it. Anyway, I better go. Good luck. She started to leave. And don't forget, look how lucky we are. We made it. With one last smile, she ran off. Happy for her and worried for myself, I approached the host. Hello, I introduced myself. My name's Artifacts. I'm one of the artists here. Oh, yes. he said in what sounded like almost a metallic voice echoing through my ears. Artifacts. Your work is in the West Wing. It's in the far left corner. Can't miss it if you look for it. As disappointed as I was that I would not be with Natura for the exhibition, I was more worried about what he meant by if you look for it. Ah, thank you. I awkwardly nodded and hurried off. As it turned out, I had every reason to worry. When I got to my display and looked around, my work was put in a small corner of the museum, getting very little attention from the people, except for those who had grown tired of hobnobbing with the rich and powerful and needed a place to relax for 15 minutes before heading back into the fray. My, isn't this quaint? One particular gallery goer had said. A tall, thin man with a soft smile, but a hard, imperious gaze. I'll certainly see something like that painting on a commemorative plate one day, mark my words. If by that you mean that it will be widely distributed and be loved by many, then yes, perhaps you're right, I sneered back. But it fell flat as the man merely smirked and walked away. I was in such a bad mood that I was beginning to contemplate packing up my stuff and leaving when someone came up to me. Excuse me, came a jittery voice from behind me, and I turned to see a bespectacled man in a cheap gray suit holding a clipboard. Oh, hello there. Come to catalog my stuff, have you? See if it fits your price range as a Christmas present? What? He tilted his head in confusion. No, don't be silly. I represent the hosts of the exhibition this evening, Marshall Carter and Dark. You represent? My head quickly swelled with optimism. Oh, well, good heavens. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance, sir. I reached out and shook his hand, even though it was not offered. May I have your name? That's not important, sir. The man looked down at his clipboard. Oh, I was not in the mood for cryptic stuff. Can I call you Bob, then? I joked. If you like, he shrugged. Your artifacts, yes? Yes, indeed, I grinned. The foremost up-and-coming artists of the Are We Cool Yet movement. As you say, sir. He doesn't look up from his clipboard. Have you been enjoying the exhibition? Oh, it's been wonderful, I lied. Glad to hear it, Bob replied flatly. Now, about your work, artifacts. Ah, yes, I grinned again. Have your employers, taken an interest? Well, it's just that. Bob looked up with an apologetic smile. That's not a good sign, I thought to myself, worried. Surely, this isn't your best work, sir. What do you mean by that? I flared up. Take a look at this one, for instance. I pointed him towards my painting on the wall, picturing a beautiful woman, who I now noticed bore an eerie resemblance to Natura, sitting in the middle of a meadow at night. If you gaze at this painting for too long, soon enough you will fall irreversibly in love with her. No way to reverse the process, as far as my experiments have concluded. You're telling me that counts for nothing? Oh, artifacts. Bob shook his head. You and I both know that people like the Fountain and the Coalition could easily cure an affliction like that. Besides, it's not exactly hard-hitting, is it? A painting that makes one fall in love? Well, I mean, no, it's quite tame. It's quite modest, I corrected myself. But what about this? I gestured to a vase sitting on the table, one ordained with beautiful carvings around it and a bunch of dead flowers contained within. This vase will kill anything you put in it. These flowers, dead. Put your hand in, it dies. Even put a mouse in there, and guess what? It, died? Precisely. I raised my arms. A vase that kills things. Bob looked at his clipboard. Frankly, it's even simpler than the last one. You know this exhibition is for anarts, right? You might do well to get out of the reach of the anomalous and... No! I shouted suddenly. No. I mean, what about this? In desperation, I pointed to a small sculpture next to the vase of an ancient Greek archer striking a pose, ready to loose an arrow. Bob looked down at it. Oh, yes, that. What about it? Well, I began nervously. The eyes follow you wherever you go. Could it shoot you? Are you willing to test that? My voice faltered. Oh, artifacts. Bob shook his head. I'm afraid it just isn't up to the standards of my employers. You know you were only invited here because of the connections your father has, but now I'm starting to doubt if strings can be pulled for you anymore. He started to walk away. Disappointing. Wait, don't go, I called after him. But he kept walking. I've got more. It was too late. He had disappeared into the crowd. As I lost sight of him, I sighed to myself. I'm sorry. I sighed to myself, resigning myself to disappointment. Father's going to be so disappointed. When I started walking back to my display, I heard a familiar voice behind me. How'd you fare? I turned around. It was Natura. Oh, fine, I guess, I lied. You guess? She raised an eyebrow at me. This was fantastic. All night, everyone was coming up to me, asking about my work. Some guy almost got eaten. I assumed he wasn't expecting the flytrap painting to be so lifelike. It was incredible. Yeah, well, this was a good start, I guess. I shrugged nervously. I've got to head off. I think I'll pack my stuff up and go. I glanced back and forth from my display to hers. Nice meeting you, I concluded and walked off. Yeah, real smooth, I reflected sarcastically. Nice meeting you too, she called out after me. As I began to pack up my work, taking the painting off the wall, the buzz of the exhibition seemed to die down, and all I could hear were my own thoughts. Just not good enough, artifacts. I'll do better next time. I have to. So there you go. That is the... that was exhibition. A failed an artist. Which is very amusing. I actually think that's quite hilarious. Please no more of my sympathy pay. Exactly. Oh my god. As someone who's actually read like SCP articles, watching him present those pieces was absolutely fucking heartbreaking. There's barely anything anomalous about those things. I like how the Greek statue just follows you around. It doesn't actually shoot you. It just is supposed to make you worry about whether it does. That is hilarious. I know that Are We Cool Yet has been around for a long time in the SCP universe, but I think it's funny that it's being portrayed as having been around long enough for there to be like legacy artists that have like kids that are also aspiring to be an artist. That is hilarious. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, but nothing compared to some of the other SCP items. Sometimes, you know, you're just not remarkable enough. Okay. I am willing to we'll pick 2 more things, maybe 3 more things if we get something, if we get a couple short ones. So, I'm gonna show off what's come up on this new screen. I mostly just want you to see the image that's here, which is crazy. So, let's see. We've got... Boom. Here we go. The caption on top... the caption on top of the image says, Shelf Southwestern 00 Mood, dedicated to Amenemope, the almost glorious. The almost glorious. So not actually quite glorious, but close enough. So, that's a mood, right? I would like a statue dedicated to me being almost glorious. So, as you can see, that's close enough. We'll take it. Exactly. Now you can see on the right, we've got a stack of books, right? These are the spines. So I'm going to pick 2, maybe 3 of them. So just looking at what jumps out to me immediately, I would consider names, idolatry, maybe. That's an interesting thing. Maybe also hot cocoa. Those sound pretty interesting without being necessarily too heavy. There's like some wiggle room. We've actually had like a pretty, give me the stairs. Oh, you want the brief history of the stairs? Okay. And this is by an author that we already saw, the RJB_R. So if you want the stairs, we'll get the stairs. let's see. I'm gonna put this on the list before I read, like I have been doing. I've been doing so good with keeping track of the authors. I am very proud of myself. I would like people to get credit where it is due. Let's see. Reading list. And then here we go. This is going to be a brief history of stairs by RJB_R. Here we go. Oh, you're gonna love this, Zeb. Our first sentence. Every Elrician boy and girl knows about elevation platforms. These methods of ancient ascension, created before there was a king ruling the land, have been around for generations. Whether made of twine or wire or even the stringed earlobe of a Suvian pack rat, they're all the same basic idea. The platform is lifted into the air so passengers may reach a higher locale. But what of the other methods of going up to a tall place? There have been many attempts over the years to build one which may replace the elevated platform, but all have been disasters. The uphill waterfall, the double cannon, and turkey surprise. All were considered threats to the elevated platform, but were never adopted by the 6th Carpentry Architecture Union. However, one method did come close. Stairs, or the miniature self-prepared elevation foot mechanism, was developed in 232 VGE by Dexterius Matthews, who believed it would bring about a revolution in transport units. Originally constructed out of steam-powered lily pads and bamboo sticks, later models would usually be made of stacked boxes of reeds. When patented, even the king was impressed, ordering the new parlor castle to be built with stairs instead of elevation platforms. Now, it must be said that this shook up the Elra architectural subunion. For if the kind king was impressed by this new method of self-elevation, it could bring great trials and tribulations to their profession. But while the castle had to be built, it would be built by the enemy of all stair kind, the elevated platform architectural sub-union. So, the cornerstone was struck, and the castle was constructed into the new year. As they labored, they took careful care on the 876th step. You see, the king had a habit of pausing to gaze upon his domain every 876th step. If this were true, then slightly weaker boards, unable to support the Capulet Royal at this juncture, would be tragic. After many nights of toil and sweat, the castle had been raised from humble foundations to a massive structure of grandiose proportions. There were towers jutting out of bigger towers, and masonry made of the handsomest minerals. At the center of it all was a grand 876-step staircase spiraling to the heavens. The king saw it and was pleased. Pausing briefly to gaze upon his domain, he was urged by Direxius and other attendees at the opening to ascend the stairs. Step by step, he went upstairs. Every board creak and footsteps signaled another uplifting step to even more dizzying heights. From the ground, spectators watched in awe. Designers of the staircase and elevated platform alike steeled their nerves, for they knew this would make or break their chosen method of transport. Finally, the king reached the 876th step. He stood briefly, gazing down upon his domain, and smiling. Then there was a creak, a snap, and tragedy. Slowly, the king toppled backwards, his rotund form unable to find ground upon the myriad of now descending steps. The crowd watched in horror as he was tossed and beaten by the wooden monstrosity and cringed at his agonized cries. When he finally reached the ground, all faces were silent and ashen. Direxius alone wept because he knew his downfall had come. Never more would stairs be wrought from iron or swampland. Forever onwards, they have been outlawed and their creators hanged from the tallest root. Maybe you can spot one in an ancient crumbling ruin and remember the hubris of its fall. But maybe not. After all, they are only stairs. So there you go, Zeb. A brief history of stairs. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I imagine you would. Secure, contain, propel, yeah. Improvise, adapt, elevate, yes. Turkey surprise, yes. I would also like to know what turkey surprise is. So there we go, a whimsical tale about stairs, not too long. Are these supposed to be basically memes? They are not, in fact, memes. These are just creative stories. I thought it was going to be about the stairs in the woods, and this was far better than anything I could have hoped for. Oh yeah, I remember that copy pasta. I haven't seen the stairs in the woods for a while. I think the series has concluded in a way, actually. It's been a while since I've had like checked on it. So far, I'm very amused. I'm glad that you were amused. So the general idea behind the Wanderer's Library is it's a fictional library. People can write all kinds of stories and contribute there as long as you meet the quality guidelines for your story. And pretty much these are all like just open source stories for people to read and stuff. They are not all funny like this. Some of them are actually very depthful and tragic. I think we just actually managed to get like a handful of very amusing sort of stories this time around. I'm gonna throw up the list again really quickly. I am considering Idolatry, Names, and Hot Cocoa. Did I do... Oh, we did Hot Cocoa. We actually read Hot Cocoa before. So never mind. So I guess Idolatry and Names. That is what I'm looking at. And maybe Tourist. Tourist seems interesting. Ultimatum, perhaps. But I feel like there's a little more room for Ultimatum to potentially be serious. I will bring the stairs back. Interesting. If nothing jumps out at anybody, I am gonna go to Names and we'll see how that is. And then we'll read one more after that one if it's short. If it's long, then this might be the last one. Oh my, it is incredibly short. It is incredibly short. I was about to say Names looks interesting. It does. But it is also incredibly short. So let's make it happen. We're definitely gonna read another story after this one. I may read two more actually because this is so short. Let's see my reading list. We're going down here. And then we've got Names. And the author is Dragonofelder. Dragonofelder? I'm not sure. It could be pronounced either way. Yeah, there's only room for a couple more in this list. I feel like that's a good kind of rule. But all right, here we go. Names. By Dragonofelder. Oh God. Dragon of Elder. My brain didn't even think actual words. My God. I am so tired. It's like 4 a.m. Oh no. Put to sleep on my own stories. Thank you. Yes, Dragon of Elder, obviously. My God. It's okay. I had to look at it for... Yeah, I don't know. I read a lot of words in different languages and stuff. It definitely struck me as like, I don't know, something potentially European style or something in terms of just running names together. Dragon of Feather, nothing. No. All right, here we go. Oh my God, I'm gonna cringe so hard if this person watches this VOD. I can't even say unfortunately. That's not true. It's only unfortunate because I've literally embarrassed myself on the internet, right? Some of the authors from the Wanderer's Library stories did actually watch the VOD to see me and listen to me read things the last time. So there might be a chance of someone actually seeing this. Depression, actual depression. Hi, YouTube. But see, if I put it on YouTube, I can just sort of like forget it, right? Unless someone comments directly on it, I'll be like, fine. But, oh no. Oh my god. Yes, hello, Dragonofelder. I'm so sorry that it's very late in the evening / early in the morning, and I fumbled your name. I fumbled that bag hard. There's no denying it. I can't play it off or anything. It'll be me. Okay. All right, here we go. Names by Dragonofelder. Oh my god. When they started building it, they gave it many names: Titan, Nimbus, Galaxy class. As the plans were changed and expanded, new names were given: Deliverance, Hope's End, Traveler. As ideas came faster, technology advancing to allow this single project, the names became longer: Systems Thief, Guardian of the Stars, Megalith. Then they stood back and saw the full extent of their task and became more serious: Infinity, Domination, Alpha. Then, as it was completed, they realized it could have no name. Nothing could define it. Nothing could describe it. It simply was. It could have no name, for none encompass its size, its power, and its purpose. It was the ship. Okay, I see. They're trying to name a ship and they just didn't bother. I see. Great. Snaps. Just snaps. Oh gosh. I wonder if there's any discussion on this particular story. Actually, there's not a lot here. Someone wished it was longer. Someone mentioned that there was a typo early on. Alrighty. So we're back. That was incredibly short. I am actually gonna look at Tourist first. Schnapps. I haven't had schnapps in a while, actually. Okay. Oh, okay. I see. Tourist is a short poem, it looks like, as well. It is by a user named Florita. And I'm sure that I'm pronouncing that at least closer than fucking Dragonofelder. My god. Okay. Let me get this reading list updated. We'll read this one and then one more, and then I will call it a night. So we have Tourist by Florita. I am ready for Tourist to possibly hurt my feelings. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, here we go. The Tourist is a particularly strange creature. They will spend a week's worth of your pay on a necklace made of twine and polished stone. Women will talk down to the elderly, finding amusement in their manner of speech. They will gawk at the men selling peanuts in the streets, while their husbands gaze longingly at the girls on the corners. Those men will promise the young ones everything they could ever dream of, never offering an explanation when they leave them to wake up alone. They will feed the hungry as long as they can recite the Lord's Prayer in proper English. Turn away and whisper under their breaths, perhaps they would not be so poor if they didn't breed like vermin. They will find snippets of us, create a version of us in our minds, or in their minds, becoming enamored with the idea, remaining disgusted at the reality. I see. That was like a really real. That was like really real. There are tags on this too. Yeah, this is anthropological. This is a political prose realistic. Yikes. Great. Actually awesome. Very great poem. A little too real though. Like, I see 180 that you subscribed. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. I appreciate the support. Thank you. Thank you. Damn, wait, I didn't want it to actually hurt my feelings. I'd take it back. It's too late. It's too late. We're already here. Look what you've done. Okay. We're going to move this up just a little bit. Okay. And then... Oh, I'm in like a complete daze. It all went over my head. Yeah, no worries, bro. I thought it was going to be like a poem about how being in love is like being a tourist. No, I mean, 180, you know, it was generally about life and what real tourists actually do for real. Which is part of, man, I don't want to get into how harmful tourism can be because of some of the things that were listed here, but it can sometimes not be great depending on how people behave. Hopefully, if you do travel, you're actually being very respectful of the cultures that you're going to observe, and you are actually treating people well no matter where you go, because everyone deserves to be treated like a human being. And I feel like if you're doing those two things, you're probably doing good. You're probably doing good. Okay. I am afraid to look at idolatry now. But we'll see. Okay, I'm opening it up, and it is quite, I mean, like, it's not like the longest thing I've ever read, right? Like, it's not a novel, but it is fairly long. We are also being led to the Dreamers Library. And I'm wondering if there is, in fact, a explanation of the Dreamers Library tag. So it's not a separate website. I'm looking at it now. I'll pop it up really quick. It is just a separate, like, so it's separate coding on the page. So I imagine that this is maybe someone's dream that's being viewed or cataloged, perhaps. And then there's like a separate, you know, like, visual for it is what it looks like. So that's what it looks like. Yeah, it's cool though. Yeah, I agree. It's cool. And I know that in the SCP universe, as well as the library verse for the Wandering Library, in terms of the tales, there's quite a lot of emphasis on dreams and how they have an impact on reality. There are a lot of SCP items that have to do with sleep and dreaming, and like the power of dreams, bringing dreams to life, manifesting dreams, using dreams to travel to other places, etc., etc. Not all of them for good. So this might be related to that. It's uncertain. So I am gonna go ahead and look at the author's name because I want to make sure I get this down. This is by Din-Bidor. And then let me get this name down here real quick. Please do not bring my dreams to life. They are all terrible. Oh yeah, I imagine so. One of my closest friends has a similar issue where a lot of her dreams are being able to sense and feel the emotions of people who are trying to murder her in her dreams. That is a whole thing. And sometimes she has dreams where like she also murders other people, but it's very rare. Usually, like, by and large, I'd say 90% of the time she's being killed in her dreams. And it's not just that she's dying. Apparently that doesn't bother her. What bothers her the most is that she can feel the joy that her pursuers have while they are pursuing her. And that is what she actually sometimes finds disturbing about her dreams. Yeah, damn. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I, on the other hand, do not, because everyone dreams, right? Statistically, your brain actually has to do something with that extra activity. I do not remember my dreams ever. That is disturbing, Rip. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. She's desensitized to it at this point. So unless it's particularly like brutal or particularly twisted, usually she's just kind of like, yeah, well, you know, I got killed again. Not me feeling slightly bad for the occasional times I played Dead by Daylight as the killer. Oh no, not you feeling bad. But okay. Let's buckle up. This last story, Idolatry, is fairly long. So I will stop to read every couple paragraphs or, you know, pause a little bit to read comments. However, I will say this is broken into sections, so I'll try to pause between these sections as well. As a reminder, I do not know what is in this. I just kind of choose stories at random. So I can't really especially offer content warnings or anything. If you are hearing anything that seems like it might trigger you, or if it seems unsafe for your consumption, if you have sensitivities or things like that, feel free to dip out. No worries. No judgment or anything. Do what's best for you. And without further ado, we are now looking at Idolatry. In the age of Haida, before the ways were open to mortal men, there was a city in the farthest reaches of the world, its great form looming over the land of Lornmun. Tavok of the Red Sands was its name, for it had been erected amidst the red dunes of the Umar. Tall and mighty were its walls, its towers, its spires, built from star substance, pale and hard, unlike any rock in the land. Colossal were its temples, palaces for the nameless idols that watched over the darkness, carved with glyphs and names in tongues unknown. And silent were its streets, walked only by ghosts and wind, for though it could have housed 1,000 men, Tavok was as empty as a starless night over the sea of dunes. Thus was Tavok known as an aberration, a city built but never inhabited, a child born but never claimed. No one knew whose hands had erected it. None could tell for how long it had stood. All the people of the land understood, nevertheless, a knowledge vested on them since words had meaning, since men had arrived on the fertile banks of Lornmun, that the city's name was Tavok, and that it stood silently amidst the red sands of the Umar. And with this knowledge, the people knew dread, for though empty and unclaimed, still Tavok remained unspoilt, its walls unmoved by the rage of the elements, its towers strong as if they knew not the ravages of time, its streets clean as if built the night before. It was, they said, as if something older than men, older than the world, had died and given birth atop its corpse to the empty spires and palaces of Tavok, to its dark temples and cavernous houses, and still kept watch over its spawn. And all the while silence like an omen reigned. And so city came to be known as Tavok, the silent city of the Red Sands. For millennia untold, Tavok remained deserted, unclaimed by people or empire, its dreadful stillness unmolested. But the will of men is strong, and from the north one day came down a strong, hardy people born in a place called Areta. Exiled from their home by sword and magic, they wandered through the desert, begging and trading and praying and fighting to survive. Upon arriving on the land, they were rejected, turned away in every city and village, for the men of Florita were gray of skin and blue of eyes, and the people of the land thought them demons from beyond the stars. Thus, the men of Florita were forced to take refuge on Tavok, for it was, like them, unwanted and unclaimed. The men of Florita entered the city, shuddering as elder walls breathed out the dread silence of yore, as the terrible stillness of its stone houses and palaces welcomed them past the arched gates. They looked in fear and fascination of the uninhabited buildings, at the vacant squares and gardens, at the desolate temple shrouded in darkness. They trembled as they realized their solitude amongst the edifices, the absence of those who had built Tavok, if it had been built at all. Thus was the first night spent in Tavok, and the second, and the third, and so on and so forth. And though they still feared the star-spawned stone and its drowning silence, the men of Florita laid claim to the walls and houses, and made the city their home. And at last, Tavok's squares and palaces were lit with homely fires, and its streets filled with great crowds of gray flesh and azure eyes. And the silence ended, and the city lived, and the people of Florita knew peace and joy. And for a time, Tavok the Silent became Tavok the Mirthful, and for a time, all was good. The age of Haida marched on, cities grew and men multiplied. The people of Florita remembered their old name no longer, known now to themselves and to others as the people of Tavok. The men of Tavok the Mirthful carved a great empire through the desert, the ancient city the seat of their power. Their conquest of the place believed cursed by others had emboldened them, and out they went, conquering and to conquer. By force, the blade and coin in other cities and kingdoms of the land bent their knee to Tavok, and within a few years, all who had denied the men of Florita paid tribute to the gray-skinned, blue-eyed lords of the once silent city of the Red Sands. Tavok grew mightier still. Its people, fed by the abundant crops they sowed, became so numerous that if they all sang in unison, their voices would reach the heavens. Its riches, collected from across the land, were so many that their glistening could be seen from several miles in the distance. And Tavok the Mirthful became known to every merchant and traveler as Tavok the Glistening, the gem city of the Umar. As Tavok's power grew, so did the people's pride, and the silence which had once ruled over the city passed into myth, a tale to scare children at dusk. And little by little, the memory of the first night on Tavok was barred from the minds of the gray-skinned, azure-eyed men, as that was which had transpired during the taking of the city. And in the vaults deep below the city, locked away from the sight of men, something long forgotten stirred. One morning, a great cry echoed through the dunes, a lamentation unlike any ever heard by men. Under the shadowy dawn of the newborn day, the people of the land saw aghast what the turning of the heavens had brought, and shuddered. The people of Tavok, from the richest nobles to the lowliest of peasants, had vanished. Where last night the streets had been crowded, the fires lit in the temples full of worshippers, now stood solely the mighty metropolis of stone, as silent as it had been before the arrival of the men of Florita. No use was it that men and beasts dug deep into the grid of ground, that search parties ventured deep into the city and far into the desert endlessness, that people cried and prayed and begged for deliverance. The city was empty, and none remained to tell the tale. And Tavok the Glistening, gem of the Umar, became Tavok the Silent anew. The whispers of the fate that had befallen Tavok traveled far and wide across the lands of men. Every soul heard and despaired at the vanishing of the city's inhabitants, gone in the blink of an eye as if their lives had been but a mirage. People turned to the heavens, to the desert, looking for answers and received none. Many rumors circled about the cause of the vanishing, each wilder than previous. Some said the sorcerer priest at Tavok had offended their gods, bringing about divine judgment that had smoten the city and all who lived there into the void beyond. others still thought that the sands had opened up and swallowed Tavok, spitting back out the empty city and retaking which had always been their right. None dared utter the word, the fearful possibility that something other, something elder, ancient, had awoken in the depths of the city. Something that had always been there, before the men of Veretta had claimed the city as their own. None wished to remember the silence, the stillness. Days passed and became weeks. Weeks passed and became years, until Tavok was nothing but a distant memory. Its history and fate interwoven with legend, shifting as it spread from mouth to mouth. Whatever gray-skinned people remained, they became pariahs in the New World, shunned as their ancestors had once been, cast out in fear that they brought with them whatever curse had caused their home to be wiped clean of life. None wished to share the fate of the gem of the Umar. And for the longest of times, none dared set foot on the corpse city of Tavok of the Red Sands. Centuries passed, and the world went on, as life often does in the aftermath of catastrophe. Empires were born, expanded, and fell. Earthquakes and storms scourged the land. Seasons came and went, and still Tavok remained abandoned beyond the banks of Lorman, the mystery of its people's vanishing left unanswered. For although wise men and adventurers from across the land had come to see the city, none could bear to enter its walls and face the great metropolis of stone that had swallowed its populace whole. And the silence went on and on. One night, however, the voice spread that the fires of Tavok were lit, and the murmurs emerged from the city, whispers carried by the roaring desert wind. From beyond the walls, a shrill chanting was heard, a litany of voices not unlike the men who had inhabited Tavok the Glistening. The sound rose at night as the sun fell, and faded away as the new day dawned, as if those who howled and sang their supplications could only ever do it at the cover of night. Frightened by the sudden haunting of the dead city, the men of Lorman spent but a few days deliberating on what to do. Though the chanting unmistakably meant that something again lived within the city's walls. What it was, the men could not tell. No one had yet come out of the gates of Tavok to announce their claim to the city. No movement besides the nightly fires had been observed. Whomever or whatever had moved into the silent city of the Red Sands wished not to extend a hand in friendship or a blade in enmity. It seemed, the men thought, that the city was now truly inhabited solely by wraiths and shades of ages past. The chanting went on every night, fires lit like 1,000 stars in a shroud of darkness. Dread crept through the hearts and minds of the people of Lorman, as even the wind's howling could not drown the horrible litany, the maddening roar of 1,000 voices prostrate in worship of the unseen. The silence was gone, its absence filled by the cries, the echoes of rituals unknown. And every night, as the chanting rose in the corpse city, the people dreamt. The dream spread throughout the land like a plague, madness swirling from the deepest recesses of the mind, from the dark primal corners of memory. It burned, a blight upon the souls of those who found it in their slumber. In the numbness of the abyss, they found not release, but the waiting horror of the plague, of the sickness of the mind. They saw the face, the eyes, the gaping mouth from whence came black words of doom. They whimpered and begged for help, even as they were defiled, devoured, but none could wake them, not even as their eyes opened and the light of day revealed them, not to have returned from the dreamlands, but to be perpetually entombed in the nightmare screaming maw. To close one's eyes was to commit one's mind to lunacy and chaos. Cities burned and kingdoms fell, the tide of madness ravaging the known world, the raving crowds dancing their orgiastically celebration of death and bloodshed, corpses littering the streets, the temples, the desert itself. Blackened words were uttered, supplications to forces unknown, to bring about collapse and oblivion. Sorcerers and priests and scholars tried to stop the plague, the dream, to tear it from the minds of the men root and stem. But the sickness, like a weed, grew back a tenfold stronger, fingers digging into flesh and eyes gouged out in monstrous celebration of its triumph. The land was sown with salt, and the sky blotted out with rising ash. At last, the men of the land turned to the source of the madness, the corpse city of Tavok of the Red Sands, its walls and streets occupied by the enemy unseen, the bringers of the plague. With what weapons they could fashion, the surviving men of the land of Lorma mounted their last stand, 100 of their kin venturing past the shadow gates of Tavok and into the unknown, off to slay whatever fiend had brought doom upon the land. Inside the city walls, all was quiet, for the day Aster had yet to hide behind the horizon. Long shadows were cast by the colossal stone buildings, black spaces where a man could be swallowed whole by the dark of dusk. Steps echoed through the empty city as men advanced through the streets towards the great square they knew to lie at the center of Tavok. There, they hoped to find the cause of their ills and strike it down. Minutes turned to hours as the men walked on, but found themselves no closer to the city center. The sun went out over the horizon, and the cold moon cast its light over the city. But the march continued still, as the city itself changed in unnerving forms, eerie shapes not of earthly origin, that grew stranger and stranger as the troop headed deeper into Tavok's bowels. Buildings stretched to heights impossible, piercing the heavens until they became lost amid the darkness of night. Houses and palaces melted into one another, fused in horrid fashion as if made of living tissue and not cold, lifeless stone. Doors and windows, steps and wells formed haphazardly, emerging from walls and floors and ceilings with no apparent order or design. The city streets, once orderly and efficient despite their vacancy, had turned maze-like, an incoherent, labyrinthine abomination of dead ends and meandering corridors. And all the while, the chanting echoed throughout Tavok. Closer, the men ceased not their advance, though they shook with horror and confusion at the maddening sights that had replaced the silent city. Deeper they went, even as some of their number went missing in the branching maze, to the darkened corridors lit only by moonlight and dying torches. Closer. The chanting grew louder as the men reached what could be none other than the center of Tavok, and found the horror waiting for them. A throng of gray figures chanted and danced around a great blazing pyre, mouths voicing the horrid words of doom that split forth from the people, maddened by the plague of dreams. Their faces were misshapen, eyeless, black orifices where their blue orbs had once known the light of day. They raised their arms towards the sky, towards the shadows that watched over the feast, over their sacrifice, looming shapes of pale visages made from the same starboard stone that the city itself was made of. To them, they raised their prayers, their supplications, their sacrifices. The chanting was as loud as thunder, but only strong enough to barely drown the second sound, the noise that came from the adjacent buildings and the walls and the floor itself, as the men of Lorman slowly realized they stood not on polished stone of skilled craftsmanship, but on a heterogeneous mass of writhing limbs and screaming mouths, gray skin barely distinguishable from the space rock in which they were embedded, fused to the stone as a coral to the seabed. On it, the men of Lorman had treaded, and only now, at the zenith of the entombed's agony, did they realize the fate of the inhabitants of Tavok. The once men came from the Areta. The creatures had been the rulers and inhabitants. The creatures that had been the rulers and inhabitants of Tavok wailed and threw themselves about the air and ground, their frenzy reaching climax even as the horrified men of Lorman raised against them blade and pike, as their flesh was rent and their bones shattered. And over the blood spilt and creature slain, over the climaxing dancers and fearful slayers, over the writhing ground and the screaming walls, watched the stone faces of the idols of Tavok. the ancient things that have long awakened from their slumber in the catacombs below. And the screams died out and the fire burnt bright, and thus silence reigned again over Tavok. It transpired that the men of Lorman found truth as they extinguished the last of the eyeless worshippers, as their blades drew the last blood. How this knowledge had been vested upon them, they did not understand, but it had arisen in their hearts. What the once men of Areta, then Tavok, had strived to hide, to stamp out of history and remembrance, the truth of their first night amidst the silence of Tavok. The men of Areta had found Tavok as empty as could be. Not a single soul of their kin breathed in the dead of night. Fearful, but decided, they ventured deep into the great metropolis of stone and shuddered and wondered at its magnificence. But the stone houses and palaces of Tavok were cold and unwelcoming, unable and unwilling to host the likes of man, and so the men of Areta had been forced to seek sanctuary in the temples of the nameless gods of Tavok, at whose feet a brazier could be lit, and a fire summoned against freezing darkness. Still, they looked upon the visages of the idols who presided over the city they gazed, and their empty, polished eyes gazed back at them, filling the people with woe. Amongst these pale, nameless colossi, one stood out, an effigy chiseled into the image of a woman. Her blank orbs stared blindly into the void, her arms extended as if receiving worshippers into her embrace. But her hands were like talons, her limbs thin like dead branches. Her mouth was agape, a serpent uncoiling from the orifice like a dreadful spell uttered in the primordial bareness of the sanctum. Silent she stood like her city, wondrous and dreadful to behold. The men of Areta knew fear in their hearts as they looked upon the woman, upon the mother of Tavok, and with haste they lashed at her, tearing the statue from its pedestal, though they dared not shatter her under the strike of hammer or club. Unbroken, it was carried out of the temple, spat on and cursed by the fearful people, and buried deep within the darkest vault of the voiceless city, locked away to be forgotten by generations to come. In time, every idol in every temple on Tavok had been torn down and thrown into the catacombs beneath the silent city of the Red Sands, replaced by the deities of the men of Areta, who were fairer in their eyes than the terrible effigies that once lined the temples of the silent city. Unto them they offered sacrifice, enshrined in the cold sanctum so that they may be adored by natives and visitors, by priests and common folk alike. Upon their images were the best crops offered, the most tender sheep slaughtered, the most haunting songs chanted, so that their power held against the idols who, in their slumber, still aimed to retake that which had once been theirs. But man is frail, and not even their faith may hold against the remembrance of sin and heresy. And so the strange idols of Tavok stirred in slumber and shared their dreams with the usurpers to drive the nail of madness deep into the hearts of men. And as the people dreamt, they faded from this world, sinking into the depths of the cursed dream space of the ancient stone, cast into the maelstrom of madness that swirled beneath the waking world. And now, as ages passed and men grew bolder, as the memory of Tavok turned to myth, they returned changed, molded in the image of the blind idols of the star-spawned stone. With their tongueless mouths and eyeless orbits, they would sing and witness, dance and worship, share their dream with the rest of the waking world to serve the blind, silent wills of the nameless idols of Tavok of the Red Sands. With this knowledge did the men of Lorman return from the bowels of Tavok. With this knowledge did they burn the remains of the once men of Areta, shattered and buried their idols deep in the desert, where they would be forever lost among the red sands of the Umar. And when the deed was done, and the stone necropolis was again silent and empty, the men of Lorman returned to Tavok and razed the city to the ground. No stone was left upon stone, no houses left standing, no temple left undefiled. all was torn down, all was destroyed. After 2 days and a morning, Tavok was no more. On the place where it once stood in the desert, a gray monolith, the only stone left intact, presided over the land, a tombstone for the great necropolis of yore. And the red sands, ever silent, shifted. Wow, that was a lot. So there are a couple stories that are tied to this. Yeah, I thought it was awesome. First of all, this story is awesome, right? Amazing. Actually great. This is fantastic. I like the way that the twists unfolded and everything. The descriptions, amazing. The imagery, amazing. I love it. I did want to note, however, that there are a couple links on this page, and the links are related to other pages that are related to this story. So if you happen to be interested and you want to take a look at this, there is a page linked to the dream. So like the dream that was happening that drove everybody mad after the people of Tavok were consumed. There is an article or a story, I suppose, called Sabbath. And that is linked there. And then when they talk about the mother of Tavok, the deity that was the first figure that they put in the underbowels of the city, that links to a short story called The Sins of the Mother. Oh, actually, it's not that short. Never mind. It is not short at all. Oh, well. Yeah, that's not short at all. But the story is called Sins of the Mother. And the one about the dream is called Sabbath. Sabbath is pretty short, quite honestly. You want to know more? I will link to those 2 pages because this is the last story for the evening. So this is the Sabbath story, and this is Sins of the Mother. And I believe that they are both written by the same person who wrote Idolatry. Yes, they are. So you should be able to, bookmark those and get back to them. They do seem very interesting. I'm definitely going to stop to read both of these when I have a little time. But that, my friends, is the end of our bedtime stories. I have been streaming for almost 3 hours. That's like maybe 1 more hour more than I meant to. I hope that you all enjoyed, regardless of if you are watching the VOD or if you're here with me live. I'm very happy to be able to share some of these stories with people and bring attention to them. I absolutely love the Wanderer's Library. The stories in the archive are fantastic. The people who write them are very imaginative. They are lovely, creative people I've interacted with. Not any of these are all new authors today, but some of the ones from my last reading interacted with me on Twitter. They were all very kind, very sweet individuals, and they seemed very excited just to know that there were other people potentially, listening to stories that they put their effort into. It takes a lot to write stories, and it takes even more to write good stories. So I absolutely just love showing people these. I actually want to do more of these streams. Just the timing for bedtime streams is kind of like I tend to be a night owl, but while I'm a night owl, I'm also doing things. So I will try to make sure that not too much time passes before the next bedtime story stream. I do want to give you guys your good earworms for sleepy sleeps. But okay, great stream, bro. Thank you, 180. I'm glad that you enjoyed. I hope you get a chance to go back and listen to some of the other stories. Almost everything that we read besides Idolatry was pretty short today. So I think you would enjoy some of the other ones. I know you're not really like a VOD person, but I'd say this is like the one case where it might actually be like worthwhile to go back and listen. These stories were dope. I will simply have to write a bunch of shit that you'll be tempted to read. I mean, you could just give me a list of things to read like now, and I can just feature them on the next one. maybe. Yeah, but the Wanderer's Library is cool. I enjoy reading things. There is the only thing is, obviously I want to make sure that people get credit for what they are, what they write. I usually try not to read things that have like official channels to get through, unless all the information is like already online, like self-posted by the author. Because I mean, not only do I want to avoid like DMCA or copyright things, but also I want people to be able to support writers and artists. I think that's very important. You can't write and do art for free. So for the most part, I mean, artists gotta eat too. In this case, the Wanderer's Library is just a really great project where people kind of spend their extra time, or if you've got like plenties, plot bunnies or cool ideas and you don't have anywhere to put them, the Wanderer's Library is a great place for that. So yes, go visit, have fun, read things. I'm gonna hit the exclamation point today command one more time just so that the link pops up for anyone who wants to just kind of like have a one-stop shop click to get to the website. And before I go, I do want to spend time to say thank you, friends, for joining me on this journey. I always enjoy reading stories and experiencing stories with you guys. Big fun, big enjoy. So without any further ado, this is Luminous Peak signing off. Thank you very much to everyone who showed up to stream, to anyone watching this stream later. I hope that you have a lovely morning, afternoon, or night, no matter where you are. And please remember, guys, to take care of yourself because you are important, okay? And I will see you guys in the next stream. Bye.